It was never promised the life here on earth would be easy, but let's go on this journey together. You're listening to From Hurt to Hope. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited that you are here. Today, I wanted to share a little bit more about my occupational journey, my career, how I started doing what I'm doing now, and all of the nitty gritty that led up to where I am now. What my very first jobs were like, what I learned, and what was some hard things to go through in my different careers. I feel like your occupation is one of those places on your wheel of wellness where it can cause you a lot of hurt. It can cause you a lot of frustration. It can cause a lot of anger and disappointment and discouragement. But once you find an occupation that you want to be in and you are living your God-given purpose and you're using your God-given gifts, I feel like so much beauty can come out of this area. Because if you are living your life and serving people the way that God has called you to serve them, if you are doing that, how much better can things get if you love what you're doing every single day? Now, I feel like I just have to give this a little bit of a disclosure at the beginning is that my job, even to this day, isn't perfect. I mean, there are things that I wish I could change, and there's things that I deal with that I wish I didn't have to encounter. But waking up every day, I am happy with what I get to do. I get excited to, go to the office or to get on here and share a message with you guys or to meet with clients. I actually enjoy that. Now, if it ever becomes a time in my life where I'm starting to dread it, then I'm going to have to reevaluate things. So I want to share a little bit of my journey in my occupation from hurt to hope. So I have had a job since I was able to be employed. So I think I was about 16 when I started applying for jobs. As soon as I got my driver's license, I knew I wanted to have a job because I wanted to have my own money. I wanted to be able to, put gas in my car and to buy things that I wanted. And usually about 16 in Ohio is the age where people will start employing you. So I was probably one of the most annoying people out there. There was just one specific place that I wanted to apply at the time, and it was just this little hardware store in our local town. And my sister and my grandpa worked there, and I thought, you know what? They worked really well with her schedule, and they seemed to like it at the time. So why don't I give it a try? And I knew that, it was something that I would enjoy doing. It was right in town. It was close to our house, so I wouldn't have to travel far to do it. And a lot of people were having to travel 20, 25 minutes to get to a lot of the retail stores that would hire younger high school kids. And this one was close. This one was close by, and I wouldn't have to be doing that drive. Like I said, was probably one of the most annoying people when I put my application in there. I pick it up, I drop it off within a few hours of filling it out, and I went back every day to check on that application. I would ask to see the manager, and I'd ask them if they were hiring, and I'd say, I just want to check in on my application. And I think after like the fourth or fifth time going in and checking on my application, they were finally like, well, I guess we can go ahead and set up an interview. We weren't planning on hiring right now, but we'll just sit down and interview you. So I landed my first job interview and I got hired. And then I started working after school in the evenings, and then I would work on the weekends. I didn't mind at all. I didn't care working every single weekend. I didn't mind working Friday nights at all because I was making money and I was saving money. I had a decent savings account going. I was also happy because I had that freedom to go and buy whatever I wanted to buy. If there was cute clothes I wanted, if I wanted extra gas money to drive a little bit further, if I wanted to stop at a fast food restaurant, I had the money to be able to do that. So I worked this job for a couple years in high school. And then when I got to my senior year of high school, I was approached by the guidance counselor, and she said that a local attorney's office had contacted them to see if they had anybody that would be interested in doing some filing and answering the phones and setting appointments. And she asked me if I'd be interested in going in for an interview. She thought it would be a position that would fit me. And it's kind of funny because I wasn't looking for anything. She called me down to her office, and I don't know why I came to mind for her, but I was the only high school student that she approached, and I was the only high school student that applied for the position. I remember thinking, okay, how am I going to work this out? How am I going to go there and work for them, but then also still keep my job at the hardware store? So at this time, I thought, wow, office hours would be really great because I would be making more money and I would only be working a few hours in the evening instead of until 8, 9 o'clock at night. I would only be working until about 5. When I heard a little bit more of what the job would entail and I went to the interview, I thought, okay, this is going to work out well. And I decided to tell the hardware store that I would only be able to work weekends. So I worked Monday through Friday. I think I went in about 2 p.m. and worked till 5 p.m. at the attorney's office. And then I would work all day Saturday and all day Sunday at the hardware store. So I was practically working 7 days a week plus finishing my senior year of high school. During my senior year, I was really, I guess, getting exposed to a lot. And this is where some of the stress and the strain and the hurt first started in some of my very first jobs. Because I mean, as soon as you get hired somewhere, you can expect for things to come up. So at the attorney's office, there was just a lot of stress. There was a lot of stress and just keeping up with the busy demands of trying to schedule people and, hearing the different details of their cases and trying not to let that weigh on me and realizing like, oh, this is some serious stuff that we deal with here. And then also the guy that I was employed by, the attorney that I was employed by, his wife had a drinking problem. She was an alcoholic and she was really tough to work with. She would call into the office drunk at times and she would yell at the receptionist and she would come over and show up to the office at times and cause big scenes. So that was stressful. And you just never knew if it was going to be a good day for her or a bad day for her. And being young, just being 18 years old, that was a lot to try to wrap my head around because I'd never been exposed to anything like that before. Also, at the hardware store that I worked at, it was hard because it was a small family-owned hardware store. So with that being said, there was a lot of family. There were stepdaughters and nephews and sons and all of these people working there. And it seemed like they definitely got this special treatment. They needed days off. Their days got granted. If they were late to work, it wasn't a big deal. It was like a slap on the wrist. And I remember one day in particular that led up to me quitting that job at the hardware store was Brad's grandma was actually in the hospital out of town. And she was really sick and she had just gotten diagnosed with cancer and wasn't doing very well. And Brad's family was going up to see her for the day. And it was a Saturday afternoon and I really wanted the day off. I really wanted to be able to go up with him and be there by his side for the last time that he would probably be seeing his grandma. And I went in that morning. I let the owner of the hardware store know what was going on. And I asked him if I would just be able to leave about 10 o'clock when they were leaving to go out of town. And I had not asked for any days off leading up to this. And I know I was only working a couple days a week, but I let them know that, this could be the last time that I got to see her. And his reply was that I could leave when his stepdaughter came in that day. And so I worked and I think it got to be about 9:30, then 9:45, then 9:50, and she called off. She wasn't going to come in that day. And that was so frustrating because my whole way I got to get out of in the hardware store that day and to go up and visit Brad's sick grandma was to be based on somebody else. And it was somebody who was not very reliable. It was somebody who they call off work and they probably still got paid for the day. And they didn't give any notice that they were going to be calling off work until it was like 5 minutes till the time they had to be there. So that was really frustrating. I remember just going home that afternoon and taking my lunch break, and Brad's family had already left to go visit his grandma. And so I didn't get to go. I finished out those couple hours there, went and took my lunch break. And I remember just crying because I was so frustrated that these bad employees, even if they were family, got so many different perks and it didn't matter. They could do whatever they wanted to do. And here I was missing out on the last time that I would have been able to see Brad's grandma. I just quit. I called in and I called my supervisor and I said, I'm not coming back. I quit. So that probably wasn't the best way to go about that, but I was pretty fed up with the way that things were going. And so I continued to work the rest of my senior year at the attorney's office. And I got every weekend off after that. After I quit my job at the hardware store, I got every weekend off, it was a change, but it was nice. So the remainder of my senior year, I just finished it out working at the attorney's office. Now, I think people probably thought that I was going to be be a paralegal or something because I was working in a law firm, but I never had the interest of becoming anything in law. I didn't enjoy typing court forms. I didn't enjoy, I guess, the complexity of the cases and things. It was just something that I was never drawn to. But when I started applying to different colleges and I started trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I got older, I knew that law definitely was not going to be one of the areas that I wanted to pursue. Finished out my senior year working there. And when I enrolled in college, because that's what all good people do, all smart people do, all responsible people do. I don't know why I thought that art would be a good major. I have no idea. I just thought, hey, like I love art. I'm taking a ton of art classes my senior year. I love to be crafty and creative. Maybe art would be a good major. Don't ask me what I thought I was going to do with an art major. I still don't know to this day. And there wasn't really anyone there stopping me and saying, hey, like what kind of job are you going to get with an art degree? Now, I wasn't going for graphic design. I wasn't going for photography or anything like that. I was just going for art. So I continued to work at the attorney's office and also started my first year of college. And the things at the attorney's office just got harder. I wasn't enjoying it. They got more stressful, more strenuous. There was a couple other people hired into the office that were really difficult to work with. And I just decided it was my time to step back and not be there as much. So I cut down my hours very low. And I thought, well, maybe things are better in the spring or in the fall when I decide what my next semester will look like and all my hours that I'm going to be taking in classes, then maybe I will decide to come back and work a little bit more. So during that time, since I was only working a day or two at the attorney's office and I was still in college, I picked up a small part-time job at one of my friend's tanning salons, which was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy that job. It was just a nice, relaxed environment, and it was fun and bright and clean, and people were friendly. So I did enjoy having that small odd and end part-time job there. So when I found myself in college, I was pretty confused about what I wanted to do. I was confused about what I wanted to be when I got older. And I started to realize, okay, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with this art degree. I don't know how I'm going to earn money one day. So then I decided that I was going to switch my major to psychology. I thought, oh, this will be good. I really like the mind. I like the idea of doing counseling and working with people who are hurting. I really like the idea of figuring out why people make the decisions that they do and how to help them heal from traumas and things. So I changed my major to psychology, and then I realized, wow, this is going to be a long road, and I don't even know if I want to be working as a counselor. I didn't know if I wanted to be in like a clinical setting or if I wanted to, what exactly I wanted to do. So after that, I think it was the next semester, I decided to change my major again. And that time I started exploring teaching, because I'm like, well, then I could look into being an art teacher, or maybe I could, help these kids in school. And so I could be teaching them something, but I could also be, walking in life with them on this journey. So that would put the psychology into play. And all I knew is that I liked art, I liked psychology, and I liked helping people and teaching them different things. I was very confused. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to be doing. And I was still working at the attorney's office, but things were getting pretty difficult there. I was at a pretty crazy time in life where I just felt like nothing was lining up. This was a time when Brad and I were living on our own, so we were navigating young adult life. I was so confused about who I was. Like, what do I want to do? I wanted to feel like I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, but I could not figure it out for the life of me. Then it started really weighing on my mind. Should I even continue going to school, or should I take a break? Because here I am racking up all these student loans and I'm not getting any closer to graduating because I keep changing my major and I'm not happy with any of these classes. And what am I going to do? So I did finally make the decision that I was going to quit going to college. I say quit in a funny way because I still have a little bit of shame in saying I didn't finish my degree, but I quit going to college, and it almost was like a relief. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders when I finally made that decision. But I thought for a very long time, when I dropped out of college, that I was a failure, that I wasted all of this money. I wasted a lot of money and a lot of time, that I was never going to end up being anything because I didn't have a degree. And I feel like that was just pushed so much by, teachers and parents and counselors and classmates and everything about like this was a standard and you needed to go to college in order to do anything. So after I dropped out of college, I started working more at the attorney's office, but it was a really tough season to be there for a couple reasons. The cases that we were handling at this time were hard. My boss was representing a guy that was charged with rape of two young girls, very young girls, and just hearing the details of that case and knowing that he was representing somebody that could have done this terrible act, that was enough. And then we got a homicide case where an older gentleman murdered his wife and kept her body in the home for several days. It was a very tough case because there were pictures, and I used to watch crime shows leading up to this, but the pictures that you actually see in files are nothing like the pictures that are on TV. And knowing that the attorney I worked for was representing somebody who took somebody else's life and was trying to get them a better plea deal in what their prison term would end up looking like, that was really hard. It was hard for me because I could not bear seeing how gruesome those pictures were, but then also just knowing that this person committed the crime, but we're also there as on his team trying to advocate for him to serve less time, even though he did take her life. So those two cases right there caused me to lose so much sleep. I was so very stressed out over them. I remember even at times if we were representing people who weren't happy with the service they were getting and they were in jail at the time waiting for their hearings, they would send letters to the office saying that, they knew where we were and that, when they got out, they were going to come after us and different things, the threats that went on. And then also my boss's wife, her alcohol abuse really, really started taking an even deeper turn for the worst. She'd call in and threaten us on the phone, and she would call in and cry, and then we would have to go over and check on her. If the boss was at work or if he was at court, we'd have to go over to their house and check on her, and she'd just be a complete mess at times where she was on these binges, and there was just no line there between what was what was professional and what wasn't. Like what were we supposed to be doing, and where were we allowed to draw the line and say no? When I told Brad how much of a toll it was taking on me, he gave me the free and clear. We were married at this time. He gave me the free and clear to go ahead and quit that job. Now, leading up to that, something fun that I started doing as a hobby was I was doing cakes. I was a cake decorator. So I was doing birthday cakes and a few wedding cakes, and I was busy almost every weekend with different cakes that I would make. But that was a very stressful thing as well because Brad was only home on the weekends, and so I would have a big cake delivery and he'd have to come with me, or he would come home and I would be working on a cake, and I wasn't formally trained, so there were a lot of little things that would hiccup and go wrong and be stressful. For example, summertime and cakes do not mix. The humidity in the area we live in made it really difficult for my summer cakes, and it was very stressful. But I figured that it was a good way for me to have some work to do while I was at home, and I was still able to contribute some. So I came home to do full-time cakes, and that lasted for a few weeks until I got really bored Monday through Thursday, because primarily I would just work on cakes on the weekends. Most people have their birthday parties and weddings and events on weekends. So I wouldn't have to start working on those until about Thursday and Friday of the week leading up. And so I'd sit at home all week long while Brad was at work, and I would just twiddle my thumbs and scroll social media. So I decided one day that I was going to get a part-time job. I was like, maybe I could just get some office work somewhere. I do have office experience, so maybe I can get some work somewhere that I can just work Monday through Thursday and then have the other couple days of the week to work on my cake business. So a job that I went and interviewed for was a banking job. It was a part-time teller position, and I thought, wow, that would work out. It's just a few hours a day, and then I will also be able to work on my cakes in the other time. So I started there part-time, and then within 2 weeks, I applied for a full-time position. They have mentioned that they like to see when people show the initiative to move up in the company. And I thought, oh, well, I'll apply for it. I've only been here a couple weeks. There's just no way that I'll get hired for it. Well, lo and behold, I got the position, and the next thing you know, I was working full-time at the bank. I was also hired in with somebody the same exact day that I got hired. And for some reason, they gave her a really hard time. So I would watch her, be treated bad or to get picked on by management. And when I say picked on, I'm saying like if her shirt wasn't tucked in the right way, they were constantly on her, or if she needed time off, it wouldn't get approved, or if she barely made a mistake, they were just jumping all over her, making her feel really bad about it. And it was really hard to watch that because I thought, man, if that was me, I don't think I'd be able to handle it. Like, how is she holding up with how bad they're treating her? And I don't know what put this target on her back and why she was treated this way. But all I knew was like, man, they can be nitpicky about things and they can be pretty mean about things. So I just need to keep my head down and work as hard as I can. I continued to do work on cakes for a little while, but it ended up becoming so stressful and I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't charging enough. And I decided that I was just going to focus on the full-time bank job. So I had this career going. I was moving up. I had applied for a couple different positions and moved into more of a customer relations position where I would open the account, but more one-on-one outside of being a teller. Being a bank teller stressed me out. So I didn't know the whole time that I worked there that I struggle with dyslexia. So numbers alone are stressful for me, but then also working with people's money that they are very passionate about and they want to make sure is all correct. If I didn't balance right at the end of the day, I would instantly like get extreme anxiety, and I was always just on edge. I was always worried that management was going to be mad about something that I did, or maybe something that I wore, or that I'd make a mistake and I would be sat down and, wrote up for it. So I was always very worried about that. I remember one time when I was working there, I was having a particularly hard time navigating being a new wife and being a new homeowner. And there was a few home repairs that came up when Brad and I first bought our very first home. And they were really stressful. They had me all worried. And I remember my manager pulling me into her office one day and sitting me down and saying, you need to leave your home life at home and you need to be focused 100% on work when you are here. So you need to figure it out. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you need to figure it out, and you need to make sure that you don't worry about your home life when you're here, because we can see that you have something else on your mind. And that stuck with me that day. I've never had anyone, pretty much flat out say like, your problems aren't important enough and we just want you to get your job done while you're here. But it definitely stuck with me, and it definitely made me realize like, wow, like not every place really cares about what you have going on in your life. Even if they say they do, they might not. So it was a tough one. It was a tough place to be because I wasn't enjoying it. I was having a lot of anxiety driving into work every day, but it was making decent money and it was a job. I had a really good friend who ended up leaving the receptionist position, and she went ahead and pursued her dream job as a graphic designer. And we met working at the credit union. And when she left, the receptionist position came available, and I wanted off the teller line. I did not want to be a bank teller anymore. I was too stressed out with the numbers and balancing and just the whole idea of it. I was over it. And so they had asked me if I would be okay with still doing the accounts where I would open the accounts and the IRAs. And I said yes. I said I would still be okay with it, even though I didn't feel like I love that part either. I was just looking for something with a little less responsibility because I knew that we were going to be starting a family, and I just wanted to eliminate as much stress in my life as possible. So I did keep doing the member service work. And there were times where I enjoyed it, and there were times where I didn't enjoy it. But I did end up getting pregnant while I worked at the bank, and that was interesting. Let's just say that, because I had people that were super nice when I became pregnant for some reason. Management started treating me really good, which was just really interesting because I kind of felt like it would be an inconvenience to them that I was going to be out for having a baby. And then I found out I was pregnant with our twins, and they became very nice to me. Management was definitely checking in on me, making sure I was feeling well. So my anxiety was not bad while I was pregnant. I feel like management kind of let up. I mean, they weren't picky about what socks I wore anymore. They were fine with my outfits because I was pregnant with twins, so not very many clothes would fit me, the whole 9 yards. They were better. But my coworkers, people who weren't in management, were getting a little tougher to deal with. I actually had one person flat out say to me, "I'm mad you're pregnant with twins." And I could not believe it, because who actually says that? But yeah, she flat out said to me one morning that she was mad at me and she needed time, and like just to pretty much give her space, because she was so upset that she's always wanted twins, and she was mad that I was having them. So I didn't even know how to reply to that, but she was somebody that I had to work closely with. She was also in the process of training me for a position. So I don't feel like I got the best training from her because she was mad at me for being pregnant with twins. I never liked to miss work ever. So I would rarely call off. Even to this day, I don't like to miss work. I don't like the feeling of letting people down. I don't like the feeling of feeling like I'm skipping out on work. So one morning in particular, I was not feeling well. My back was hurting pretty bad, and I was driving into work. I was on the phone with my mom, just telling her about how I wasn't feeling well. When I got there, I went in and I talked to like my supervisor and was telling her, how bad I was feeling, like giving her a heads up for the day. And she told me, she's like, "I think you really need to call your doctor and go home." And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to give it a little bit longer. So I was stalling. I waited around for about another hour at the bank working my job that morning. It was a Friday morning. And I was just kind of stalling because I didn't want to leave, and I didn't want anybody, to be disappointed. And I didn't want to upset anybody that, I was leaving them hanging on a busy Friday in the middle of the summer. But I got to the point where I heard back from my doctor, and they told me that I needed to rest, that I needed to take a break. I needed to lay down. So I went to my mom's house. She picked me up, and I left work that day. And the next thing you know, my babies were born 3 months early, and that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I went to work in labor. I did not want to leave work. I was that employee that was that crazy that I went to work in labor, and I was more worried about letting them down than my own health at the time. And it all came out of my people pleasing, just wanting to make sure I stayed on their good side and I didn't develop that target on my back. It actually complicated a lot of things, and got to the point where my health and my baby's health were on the line. So they were really good to me while my kids were in the NICU. I did take a full 3-month maternity leave, but I did end up using my whole 3 months while my kids were in the NICU. They were very, very understanding and considerate. They wanted to know, if there was anything that they could do to help me. But it was just hard knowing that as soon as that 3 months was over, I was going to be expected to go back to work. And that's what I did when our kids came home from the NICU. There was just a small window, just a couple weeks, where I had to go back to work. And I hated that because our money was so tight at that time in our lives. Brad and I we were so broke. It was a winter season. I had to go back to work. And I often say, for the first time, that I didn't have to ask doctors and nurses for permission to pick my babies up. I had to go back to work because we had to make ends meet. So when I went back to work after my maternity leave ran out, my babies were my priority. And I just wanted to be home with them. That's all I wanted. All I thought about was them. All I thought about was the time that I get off work. And it was just a tough season. And then I noticed when I went back to work that there was like a clique that developed. Like there was a group of mean girls that would bully the nice girls. And I didn't fit into either one. I was just kind of going to work, working my job, and leaving and going home. But I watched how this group of girls would go out for drinks and they wouldn't invite everybody. And so some people would be left out, and then those pictures would end up on social media. I also noticed that they pick on people and they joke around and make mean jokes about them. And there were two people in particular that were getting bullied pretty bad. And there's just no way that management couldn't see it. And it got to the point where that was just so frustrating to just sit there and watch these full-grown women be so mean to people because they were a little bit different than them, and to leave them out. That right there, not only was management hard enough to deal with because they nitpicked everything and would bully people about things, but it was also hard to see other employees bullying each other. So that right there was a moment when I opened my eyes and I realized that things like that people don't grow out of. It's like they'll say like, oh, that's high school stuff. No, it definitely lasts in the workplace too. When people are picking on somebody because of the way that they look or the way that they dress. I did not want to be there anymore, and Brad knew that. And so every day he would text me like, did you put in your 2 weeks yet? Did you put in your 2 weeks yet? I'm like, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. And then one day I had just had enough. I had watched one of the poor ladies just be bullied so bad that morning, and I was so frustrated. And I went into management and I had said, I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, but I don't. I'm going to go home and I'm going to be with my babies now. And they had asked me, what different things contributed to it. And they had asked me if I noticed anything, if there was like, if it was becoming more of a hostile work environment. And I told them, yeah. I said, there are a couple people here that are being completely bullied. And they let me know at that moment that one of them actually had put in their resignation that morning because they couldn't handle it anymore. So they were aware of it, and I had to say something before I left that job, but I was so glad to get out of there. So Brad works a construction job where he works 7 months on, 5 months off. And all I knew was that he was in his 7 months on, but his 5 months of unemployment would be coming up at some point in time. So with the winter months approaching, I knew I was going to have to be making some money. I was home that whole summer with our babies, but I knew I needed to be making money for the upcoming winter months. So something came across my Facebook, and I was interested in this opportunity to make money from home. Well, it was the first time that I was ever exposed to the word multi-level marketing. I had kind of heard of places like Mary Kay and Avon before, but I didn't realize that there were tons of companies out there like this. And this was back in 2014. So social media marketing and influencer marketing wasn't even a term at the time. It was something that was up and coming. So I joined this MLM, this health and wellness business that was based out of your house, and you would do these wrap parties and you'd sell supplements. And there was this whole business thing that went along with. Then there was the business side of it where you would grow a team and your team could, succeed together. And I just love the idea of being able to work from home and to help people feel better and to help people earn more money. That was my goal. So this was my first taste of a commission-based job where my work ethic and my work determined how much money I would be making. So when I joined this MLM, there was so much growth in my life. If you would have asked me 7 years ago if I would have ever pictured myself speaking on a stage and encouraging a group full of people, I would have said no. I would have said absolutely not, because I was not anybody who wanted attention. I was so low on self-esteem. I was so shy at the time, and all I really wanted to do was just fly under the radar. But joining this business taught me so much growth. I learned so much about networking and marketing and speaking, and it was awesome because I also got to travel a ton. I was going all over to different conferences and business trips, and I learned so much during that experience. Not everything in it was perfect. Obviously, there was a lot of stress and drama and things like that with managing a team of people who were some were similar and some weren't. And it was definitely a struggle at times, but I would not change that experience for anything. It was definitely a learning experience. This was the first time that I was exposed to a company that was debt-free. They were also Christian-based, so this is where my journey with God really started in my adult life. The thing is I don't think that multi-level marketing is a bad way to go. I think the companies are good, but you have to find something that you are really passionate about. And I found myself being more passionate about helping people become debt free and helping people with their finances and helping moms earn more money from home than I was about the products. I mean, the products were there because that's what you sold to make money, but I was more interested in helping people on the business side of things. And the structure in this company particularly was hard because it was team based. If you had somebody who left the company and decided to quit working their business, your whole entire structure in your business would fall apart, and then you'd have to rebuild. And this happened to me probably a half dozen times where I would have a key player on my team that would have this team going, and then they would decide that they didn't want to be in the business anymore and they would leave. And then I would be sitting there trying to rebuild and rebuild and rebuild. And MLMs are not for everybody. I can't say that I will ever join one again, but they do give you a taste of entrepreneurship because you have to have that discipline to have that drive to create sales, and you also have to develop yourself. You also have to equip yourself and educate yourself, and you have to try things that maybe nobody else has tried before. But you really do have to find something that fits your passion. And I realized after a while of rebuilding and having people leave and having people switch companies and going and selling a competing item and all of this stuff, that my heart was 100% in just helping people make money. My heart was in helping mamas, and it was helping families become debt free. So at that time when the passion wasn't there anymore, and I just seen that I wasn't able to help as many people because the structure in the company and the compensation plan and everything was changing. People weren't earning the money that they were when I first started. I decided that I was going to leave the company, and I went out and I got my personal financial coaching certification. So I took the parts of that business that I enjoyed, which was coaching and encouraging people and speaking and helping people earn more money. I took the parts of that I liked, and I plugged that into becoming a personal financial coach. So we were right in the middle of our debt-free journey at this time, and I just couldn't see myself leaving Brad up to 100% responsibility of providing all of our income. Plus, we also still needed money in the winter months when Brad was off to make ends meet. So after I left the health and wellness business, I decided that I was going to look for a different job. So there are so many things that go into the story about how I landed in the job that I am today. One of the things particularly was that I went to a job store, and I was looking there for even a manufacturing job in a factory where I could work maybe while my kids were sleeping at home, and then Brad would be able to be home with them during the day while I slept, and then he'd be home with them at night while I worked. And I thought that would work out, but then one day my mom seen that a local insurance company was hiring for a part-time customer service position. And I thought, wow, maybe that would work out. So I went and I interviewed for it. And the gentleman I interviewed with, I found out was a pastor and a foster parent. And he just seemed like he was very, very, very family oriented. And I thought maybe this will be a fit. But going back into customer service and having a set rate of pay, that was going to be hard. That was going to be hard because when you start out and you're only working somewhere and you're getting paid $10, $11 an hour when you were making $5,000 and $6,000 a month, and a previous job, that is a very humbling experience. And it took a hit on my self-esteem because not only one was I not making the kind of money that I was making before, but I lost a lot of my freedom. I enjoyed the place that I worked. It was the best office that I had actually gotten to work in. I didn't have somebody smoking in the office like the attorney's office, and there wasn't anybody there that was an alcoholic and was abusive been verbally abusive over the phone or anything like that. But it was really hard to report to work every day and just know that I was only going to be making a couple $100s a week. And another thing that made it hard was not everybody was a team player. Not everybody has the same work ambition. So when you show up and you're like, I'm going to get this work done and I'm excited and I'm here to work for my boss and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you have other people who are sitting around watching Netflix and ESPN and taking 2.5-hour lunches. And it gets frustrating after a while when you see other people not respect the work environment the way that you feel like they should. After one day of just kind of reaching my limit of feeling like I was the only one really taking the job seriously, I just cried out to God and I said, God, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Please help me. I am so frustrated. I'm so tired of just being the peon in this office and just, having everybody else delegate the work to me so they don't have to do it. Can you please help me, God? And then later that afternoon, by lunchtime, my boss who owned the company came up to me and asked me if I would ever consider going into an agent role and working with Medicare clients. And I was like, absolutely not a part of me ever wanted to get into insurance. And he's like, I think this would work out perfect for you because your background's in personal finance and you're a personal financial coach. And these people are trying to save as much money as they can on their healthcare costs so that they can enjoy their retirement. So he really started talking about it with me. And I told him that I wanted to take some time to pray about it. And once I started thinking about it a little bit more, I got excited because I got to thinking about what he said, like, can I help people save their retirement money? And I love working with older, especially retired individuals. I love hearing their wisdom. I love hearing their life stories. So I went ahead and accepted that position and went into being 100% commission-based. I was also able to start creating all my own hours. And I was pretty much back to being able to earn as much money as I wanted to, just like I was able to in the MLM. If I, wrote more policies and met with more clients, the potential to earn money was more. So that really opened it up, and that really helped boost my self-esteem. And also it was a great thing because it gave me more time to be able to work on this ministry. And this is where my heart is, but at the same time, I also had to kind of supplement it and still work in insurance and work with my Medicare beneficiaries, but also be able to work on my ministry because there's not a lot of money in this. Who's to say where God will lead things in the next decade, but I still have that freedom. So I am able to use my gifts. I am able to sit down with people and talk to them about money, and I'm able to talk to them about their resources and help them save money and to hear their stories. And then I'm also able to have the time freedom to grow this ministry and to share this word and share this message with people. It's not been a fun journey to get to where I am. It's been hard. There has just been a lot of struggle. There are a lot of parts of the story that I have left out. There are incidences that happened in banking where I experienced somebody coming in to rob the bank and just different things like that made the road a lot harder, that scared me, that made the hurt even deeper. But I am so thankful for where I am today. I know this isn't the case for everybody. I know not everybody is happy with where they're working, but I really do think if you tune in and you pray about it and you ask God what purpose He created you for, hopefully you will be able to find that. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode and letting me share how this even started and how I got here in my career and how and why I'm even here doing this, and a little bit more there. So this was my journey from hurt to hope. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my journey to how I got into the occupation that I am today, and a little bit of the looks at the highs and the lows that my journey has, contained over all of these years. So if you like this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. If you really like the episode, please consider leaving a review on the podcast. That really helps boost the podcast ratings, and it also helps it make it more searchable for other people to find the show. And if you can think of a friend or family member that might connect with this show, feel free to share it with them. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I cannot wait to bring you the next episode.